Throughout the years of Warzone, we have seen many different metas come and go in the game. From using the ground Verdansk to using the current meta we have today, we have seen both good and bad metas. With my last commentary video being focused on the most overpowered metas and how much people hated certain guns on that list, it begs the question, what were the most hated metas in Warzone history? Well, if you had that same question like I did, this video will certainly answer that question. Without any more wasted time, this is the top 10 most hated Warzone metas of all time. The first meta that we will go over is the Renetti conversion kit. The Renetti conversion kit was by far the most overpowered meta in MW3 Warzone. There was literally not a single weapon that could compete with this SMG. It had the fastest TTK with no recoil, but its only downside was that this weapon didn't have any movement speed. People in the COD community immediately start calling for Activision to nerf this gun, and it was meta for a week until COD finally made the decision to do so. For that whole week, the game was just simply unplayable. I personally didn't hate this meta to where it was annoying, because for me personally, I quite enjoyed the conversion kit. However, taking community feedback and experiencing the meta itself, I can definitely see why this meta was hated. The Doof Doof, probably the longest lasting meta of all time in Warzone. It makes a reappearance every once in a while, and doesn't it just give you some flashbacks? What the? Dude! The Doof Doof is just one of those metas that not a single player besides the player using it likes. I personally hate the Doof Doof. I hate using it, I hate going against it, and most importantly, I hate anyone and everyone who decides to use it. The Doof Doof made its first appearance in MW19, and it has continued to make several appearances during the 7 different eras of Warzone. But yeah, in short, I hate the Doof Doof. I think everyone can agree. I mean, it's literally just no skill whatsoever to use this loadout, and it literally just rewards the bad players. At number 8 is the Origin 12. Now when this shotgun was meta, there was literally nothing that could beat it from close range. Besides maybe the MP5, but other than that, there was literally nothing that was gonna beat the Origin 12. The Origin 12 was a shotgun that was semi-automatic and could have 25 rounds on it, making it really easy to use and requiring no skill whatsoever. This weapon would be meta during Season 5 and then would get nerfed after the Season 5 Reloaded update in MW19. Eventually, it would just get overshadowed by the previous meta I just mentioned. There were so many complaints about it, and honestly, I just don't blame the community for doing that. It just simply was not fun using it. At number 7 is the AUG and the M16. Now you may be wondering, why did I put both of these guns at this spot on my list? And the answer is pretty simple. They're damn near the same gun. Both of these weapons were meta during Cold War, and they were so overpowered. With little to no recoil and a headshot multiplier that was actually insane, this meta was immediately hated for how easy it was to use. These two guns would remain meta for most of Season 2 until it finally got its nerf everyone was waiting for. I hated this meta with a passion, and I never found it fun to use. There are some people out there who did indeed enjoy this meta, but for the most part, I feel like way more people hated it than they enjoyed it. But anyways, moving on to number 6. At number 6 is the MAC-10. Now this is probably the most hated SMG in Warzone history. When this SMG was meta, it was deadass the most overpowered meta we had ever seen from short range. Pairing this weapon with already the most overpowered meta ever in Warzone history was simply too overpowered. Everyone remembers the MAC-10 if you played during that time in Warzone. It was actually so awful how fast the TTK was on that gun. Not to mention, its insane movement speed and the amount of rounds you had on the gun, it literally made it unstoppable. Now it may surprise you that I had the MAC-10 over both the Doof Doof and the Origin, but honestly, I've seen way more people complain about this SMG more than I've seen people complain about the Doof Doof. There were literally videos on videos of people calling for Activision to nerf this gun. But yeah, the MAC-10 was definitely hated, but it was definitely one of the more fun metas to use on this list, and after its reign on Verdansk, using it on Rebirth was actually pretty fun. At number 5, we had the snake shots. Now the snake shots was a meta that I actually never experienced or ran into, but I have seen a plethora of people complain about this meta. Snake shots were mainly meta in the early days of Warzone, and they would make a couple appearances in MW2 and MW3. However, the prime of this meta mainly happened in Warzone 1. Pairing this with the Growl was actually so overpowered, however it would eventually get overshadowed by the MP5 due to the lack of range snake shots had. But if you were close to anyone with snake shots, 9 times out of 10 you were gonna win that gunfight and one-shot them. Snake shots were definitely overpowered, and most of the community definitely hated on them when they were meta. At number 4 is the MP40. Now the MP40 as a weapon wasn't hated. As a matter of fact, it was probably one of the more loved metas in Warzone. But there was one certain attachment that people really fucking hated, myself included. And that was the incendiary rounds with this SMG. I fucking hated the incendiary rounds on the MP40. They were ridiculously overpowered. Especially when you would win a gunfight and you would still get downed after because of the incendiary rounds. That would be one of the most irritating things that could happen to you at that time in Warzone. The MP40 as a whole though was meta for early Vanguard. However, it would eventually get nerfed and would be overshadowed by the Blixen and the Own gun. I definitely do think though that out of every meta I have named on this list, this weapon specifically wasn't actually that overpowered. At number 3 are the Diamattis. Now other than number 1, this is the meta that I hated the most going against. The Diamattis were so overpowered and annoying. Especially with the dirty round drums you could put on them, they were so overpowered. This burst pistol, which by the way was also a dual wield, became one of the most overpowered metas Warzone had ever seen. If you ran into anyone using it and you weren't using it yourself, there was a good chance you were gonna lose that gunfight. The Diamattis were just one of those metas where it felt like you couldn't die using it unless you were going against it. That's how overpowered they were. This was also the very first meta after the MAC-10, making Cold War's integration into Warzone even worse. The Diamattis would be meta for pretty much most of Season 1 and 2, and would eventually get nerfed in the future update. RPGs. Now RPGs have been in Warzone since, well, its existence. And it was discovered pretty quickly that RPGs were actually useful on Warzone. Especially on vehicles. I mean, just look at these clips.
What did he say?
Wait, RPGs are one shot? So
there have been so many damn times where I've ran into RPGs and just gotten exploded instantly. And it's irritating, to say the least. However, it is what it is. I low-key don't have an issue with people using them, since it is rare to run into someone using them. However, the hate is definitely deserved for RPGs. They are annoying to go against, but they have their pros and cons. The DMR. Now everyone knows the DMR, and why they hate it. But if I gotta explain to you why everyone hates the DMR, well, just look at these clips.
imagine that Let's go, baby. Oh, we're nasty with it.
Yeah. Like I have said before, the DMR was the most overpowered meta in Warzone history. I mean, you've seen the clips yourself. This gun was literally two-shotting people. Not to mention, this gun had an extremely fast fire rate, insane TTK, and of course its insane range and little to no recoil made this gun easy to use. Going against this thing was literally the closest thing to suicide. You were not gonna beat the DMR unless you were using it yourself. I hated the DMR with a passion, and if a gun is making you react like this, then yeah, that's how you know it's a problem. But yeah, the DMR was without a doubt the most hated meta in Warzone history, and it's by far the most overpowered meta in Warzone history. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a like on this video, subscribe and like, comment down below which part was your favorite. Please check out my Discord server, it will be in the description, and my second channel as well will also be in the description. Anyways guys, I will see you on the next video. Peace.